Good morning, and welcome to our virtual celebration of the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Francine Huss, and I'm a licensed practitioner at this center. Our spiritual minister, our senior minister, Reverend Mary Marie Shelton, is on vacation right now, but I think you'll enjoy what we have for you today. Our very own beloved Reverend Dr. Lloyd Tupper is joining us from his home in Cape Cod, and the title of his talk today is, I Realize the Truth of Myself as God Made Visible. We have Karen Drucker as our music director, with always a bright light of joy and deep wisdom, and we will be prayed in by our very own Lori Greer, practitioner for the day. I want to start with an announcement that Mary wanted me to make sure was at the top of the chart for today. It's very good news by Reverend Mary and the Leadership Council of our community. When the Corte Madera Community Center told us that they weren't going to reopen before this December because of COVID, our Leadership Council and Reverend Mary began looking for other options, as we're very excited to get back to some live service, all of us. So I am so happy to announce on behalf of the Leadership Council and on behalf of Reverend Mary that we have secured a 6-month lease with an option to renew that lease at the newly remodeled Ross Valley Masonic Center in Larkspur. We will begin meeting in person, yes, meeting in person, on July 11th at 10 a.m. Mark your calendars, July 11th. We will also still live stream from Zoom on Facebook at the same time. There are going to be many more details coming in emails, but save the date and be sure that you're with us on July 11th. Now, you may also know that we're doing a party at the Corte Madera Rec Center afterwards. It's sort of hello to get back together again, and a fond farewell goodbye picnic for our very own Mary Cosgrove and Jay Gustafson. We're still doing that. We will go over there after the service. So be sure to put that on your calendar. So at this time, I invite you to relax and enjoy the music by Karen, followed by a prayer by Lori.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? So sing along. Wait a minute, here we go, wait. Sing along time with me. So Lloyd's going to be talking about some great messages about God. And I thought I'm going to just do a bunch of my favorite God songs. So you know this one. Let's get up and dance a little bit. Let's celebrate that we're going to see each other soon. God is my source. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. That's the whole thing. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks, all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. All right, here we go. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything. How about joy? Joy is my source. Joy is my power. Joy gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Everything. How about some peace? Let's declare peace. Peace is my source. Peace is my power. Peace gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Peace gives me everything. All right, how about some love? Let's declare love. Love is my source. Love is my power. Love gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. I give thanks for all my blessings God gives me. All right, now really feel it. Sing it out now. Put your hands together. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all of my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God gives my source. God is my source. God is my power. Is my power. Now listen to those words. God gives me everything I need. Everything. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything. Everything I need. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything. Everything. Everything that I need. Wild applause. Oh, I won't have to use my applause button after this. When I see us live, when we're live. All right, a beautiful chant by Donna Michael. I'm held in love, I'm held in peace. God is holding me. I'm held in love, I'm held in peace. God is holding me. With every breath, with every step, God is holding me. Sing that with me now. I'm held in love. I'm held in love, held in peace. I'm held in peace. God is holding. God is holding me with every breath, with every breath, with every step, every step. God is holding me. This part goes like this. God is holding me. God is holding me. Can you sing that with me? God is holding me. God is holding me. Let's do the whole thing. I'm held in love. I'm held in peace. God is holding me. With every breath, with every step, God is holding me. 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 Just that last line, just say, God is holding me. Sing that again. Just say, God is holding me. Last time. God is holding me.
So breathing that in, breathing in that truth of being held by the one love, the one source, the one life that is God. Claiming and knowing that we are held, each one of us, an individualized expression of that one life of God, that one life of beauty and joy, overflowing prosperity and abundance, the peace that passes all understanding. And so as we enter into this time of communing with the divine, dropping all sense perception, letting go of the body, letting go of thoughts, just allowing for each of our individual minds to become still and quiet and enter into this place where we can feel and know that we are held. We are held by God. And so as we enter into this day and enter this service, I call forth an opening in mind that allows for each one of us to stand in our individualized expression and know that the perfect words, the perfect message, the perfect idea, the perfect experience is what is taking place, in this time where we recognize our oneness. We recognize that we are one with God, with that immutable power and presence, that infinite intelligence that always knows the answer to every question, to every situation and circumstance. And so claiming and knowing that this truth is being spoken here today as we gather together in community, I bless each person, each being that is making an appearance here, connecting through the ethers in consciousness as one community, as one humanity. And just giving thanks for the perfect revelation through this service, through the words of our beloved Reverend Lloyd, through the guidance of Francine, and through the music of Karen, just knowing that all of this is serving each one of us in the evolution of our individual consciousness, bringing forth a demonstration of some good thing in our lives, because this time together is so blessed. Coming together to remember who we are, who we really are, one with the divine. Coming to worship in community. Feeling the energy of the presence of each one, even though we're separated by walls and space. We are all one. There is only one life that is happening here. And so I give thanks for knowing that this is the truth. And having spoken this word on behalf of each one, I give thanks for the revelation, for the demonstrations, for the unfolding of a beautiful time together, and a blessed and joyful day and week filled with opportunities for expansion and greater abundance and receptivity and connection and love and every good thing that God brings forth when we open to receive it. And so I give thanks, and I know that by releasing this word into the power of the law, that it is already made so and done. And so I do that now. I let it be. Step aside and let God do God's work. And so it is.
Beautiful, Lori. That was great. So before Francine comes back and introduces Lloyd, this is going to be a great day. I got a little God song for you. So, oh, wait. There you go. I got God. So let's just get into that jazzy groove for a bit. I got God to lift me up when I'm lonely. I got God to show me the way. Yeah, I got God always there to remind me I can surrender, let go, and know I got God right here, right now, today with Reverend Lloyd. I got God. Every time I feel separation and I'm feeling so all alone, I call out to Spirit, and that sweet voice of love brings me back home. I got God to lift me up when I'm lonely. You can snap along with me if you want. I got God to show me the way. Yeah. I got God always there to remind me I can't surrender, let go and know I got God every day now. When I'm afraid or feel insecure, I need to stop and look deep inside and connect to that power that even when I resist it, it can't be denied. I got God to lift me up when I'm lonely. I got God to show me the way. I got God always there to remind me I can't surrender, let go and know I got God. Now, Lloyd's kind of a real fun guy, so I thought we need to have a little kazoo on a Lloyd day. Do you think? Wait, I got to do the whole thing for you. You just have to imagine it's a saxophone. Okay. Now we got to get you revved up for Reverend Lloyd now. So buckle your seatbelts. Here we go. We're going to do church now.
I got God, yeah.
I got God. Every morning. I got God. All through the night. I got God. When I'm troubled, I'm feeling all right. If I have a problem, I know who to call. Operator, connect me to the one and all. I'm talking about spirit. I'm talking about Allah. Give me a little bit of Buddha. Yeah, divine goddess. Oh yeah, it's the presence, the power, the light within. It's Yahweh. It's all God. It's all God. It's all God. It's all God. I said the air, the trees, the birds, the bees, the light that shines through you and me. It's all God. It's all God. It's all God. I said now everything I do, every breath I take, everything I see, every move I make, it's all God. It's all God. It's all God. I said the air, the trees, the birds, the bees, the light that shines through you and me, it's all God. It's all God. I got God. It's all God. I got God. It's all God. I got God. All right, back to Francine. Thank you all for listening.
Oh, it is all God today. Thank you, Karen, for that. And I am sure that Lloyd can feel that all God all the way back in Cape Cod. But I wanted to take a moment to give a very special introduction to our speaker today, because we may have some new people joining us today. And welcome, welcome. You are in for a treat. And for those of us that are part of this spiritual community, it is always a very special gift to have our very own Reverend Dr. Lloyd George Tupper. Lloyd is the founder of this community. He is always at the heart of this community, and he is always infused in this community, whether you see him visibly or not. He's always got his part in this community. He is very much a fabric in the soul of this community. And so it is a treat to have his wisdom. I want you to know that I consider him my mentor, my teacher, my very dear personal friend, family even. Over the years, he has guided me in my personal life and also as a professional practitioner and teacher. There is wisdom in this gentleman as no one else that I know. He is truly God made visible, and the mind of God speaks through him in ways that nobody else can. So I wanted this special introduction to really be for all of us to sit up and take notice. I got God, and to let God be visible to each one of us through this talk, because I know that there is something for me and something for you in the words that we are about to hear right now from the man who guides practitioners, who guides ministers, and who practices our philosophy the way we teach. So let's get on with it. Over to you, Lloyd.
Thank you, Francine. Thank you for Miss B.B. King, Karen Drucker. That was so great, so great. And Lori, your introduction and your treatment was exquisite. It's just beautiful. So I want to say to you this morning, as I'm sitting here in my home, relishing all these different people that are involved in putting this together, how blessed I feel that I'm a part of this community also, that we are together still 38 years later than when we started back in 1983. And here we are in 2021. I've now achieved the ripe old age of 82. And I was thinking, I'm going to ask everybody to pray that I live to be a 94, because that will be our 50th year. And I decided that I planned years ago that I was going to live to be at least 90. But then I got on the Buddhist calendar, which is the first 35 years are your physical years. The second 35 years are your material years. And the last 35 years, which would make you 105 before you transcend. You know, religious scientists don't die. They just transcend. That I would live to be 105. So I definitely want to live that I will be with you for no less than my 94th birthday, but presumably for my 105th. Now, why could I say something like that and think that there might be some reality to it? And that's the secret of my talk today. My talk was inspired by my primary mentor and teacher, whose name was Dr. Raymond Charles Barker. And Dr. Barker isn't known as much to us on the West Coast as he is on the East Coast of our country, and in South America, and in Australia, and in South Africa, and in Europe. I don't know why the influence of his having founded the church in New York City had that effect on all these audiences around the world, but I want to introduce you to the concept of what being born into this way of thinking, because Dr. Barker, who I call Raymond, I got to know him after 20 years of him being my mentor and my practitioner, along with Bitzer, that Raymond was a unique voice in our movement. Most of you know, if you don't, that he co-authored this book, 365 Days of Richer Living, with the founder of religious science, Dr. Ernest Holmes. And they together, Raymond told me the way that happened is that Dr. Holmes sent a shoebox of various pieces of papers and notes and little doodlings that he had done to Raymond in New York, and said, I'm sorry I can't be with you when you put our book together, but I want you to take my notes and you do one and I'll do the next day. And that's how Raymond told me he put the book together. He buried himself in a shoebox. But out of it came these incredible lessons that the romanticism of Dr. Holmes, who was a brilliant scholar, by the way, but he writes more romantically, where Dr. Barker, Raymond Charles Barker, wrote more, I guess the word would be didactically. I hope I'm using the right word. If I'm not, I'm sure I'll hear from all the grammarians in our movement that I didn't, but I don't really care. You know what I'm trying to say. And I'll give you an example of it, because my talk was inspired by the page for June 2nd, which I think Reverend Mary referenced in the flyer she sent out, that starts with this, written, by the way, by Dr. Barker, with an intro by Emerson. I am God's mind made visible. And end quote. The life of the soul in conscious union with the infinite. That means our willingness to let our soul or our spirit be in conscious union with the infinite shall be for thee, meaning us, the only real existence. Then Dr. Barker starts off with, I live in God, the one mind, the one principle, and the one truth. See what I mean? No nonsense, just right to the point. Body, world, and material conditions are secondary to my consciousness, which is forever active in God's mind. I am a mental being in a universe of mind action, and the law of mind is mine to use in ways of righteousness and in ways of peace. One with the infinite, I walk the pavements of time untouched by error and upheld by the Spirit. From me proceeds the good, and to me comes the divine. All of life is now offering itself to me, and I drink deeply of its healing waters. My thirst for truth is quenched as I realize the truth of myself as God made visible. Isn't that just so outrageous? I love it. Now, obviously, I'd like us all to be reading this every day, and the majority of our membership does read it. But if you don't have a copy, write to headquarters, CSL headquarters in Golden, Colorado. They have a copy. Currently, Amazon is out of copies, but you can get it from our headquarters at Golden, Colorado. And make sure you say 365 days, because Ernest has one out called 365 Days of, I believe, Spiritual Treatment. But this one is called Richer Living, and it's co-authored with Raymond Charles Barker. Now, I have a little story to tell you. I first met Raymond Charles Barker in February of 1968. I came in formally to religious science in April of 1967. This is my 54th year as a student of science of mind. And after meeting Raymond in February of 1968 in New York, where a friend of mine who introduced me to religious science took me to hear Raymond, and he was then at the town center where all the TED Talks are coming from in New York. Well, Raymond preceded them by about 40 years. And he was there, and actually the following week, he was going to show up at Lincoln Center in New York, which was just constructed. And Alice Tully, who was a member of our church then, had given approximately $58 million, just a petty cash draw on her account, to build the Alice Tully Hall. And she said to them, the only requirement I have is that my minister, Dr. Raymond Charles Barker, can speak here as long as he's the minister of our church for $25 a Sunday. Now, isn't that something? Isn't this spiritual gossip wonderful? And I've been around long enough where I know most of it. All the other people have gone forward to their next incarnation and left me to keep all this gossip in line. Now, why did I tell you that story? Well, I'll tell you. The first Asilomar that I ever attended was in August of 1968. And at that Asilomar, I didn't know anything about it. I had never been there before, but I met Vitura Papke, who at the time was the practitioner to Ernest Holmes. And she was also the lead practitioner for our huge movement of practitioners down in Los Angeles and throughout all the various centers we have around the world. So she and I were walking down toward Merrill Hall, which is at the Asilomar grounds down in Pacific Grove, California. And some event had gone on, like a workshop in Merrill Hall that sat 800. So she was in a smaller group, and she came out and rushed up to Vitura and me, whom she didn't know, but did know Vitura. And she looked at Vitura and me and she said, "I am God." Now, remember that I've come from a Catholic background, and I hadn't been in religious science a year yet. And to have someone come out and blast at my face and Vitura's to say she was God, well, it took me back. It took me aback, as they say. Now, when I think about that, I realize what she was trying to say. I am of God and I manifest God as my being. That could have been, a little more easy to take. But the fact is, she was enthused, she was excited, and she blasted out, "I am God." So the first thing I want to say to you, or the second or third, whoever's keeping score, is probably it is not a good idea to go around declaring that you are God, because immediately people that aren't familiar with our jargon shut down. And they think it's blasphemous. And in most traditional religious, Christian at least, and Jewish, and probably some other traditions would think it's a bit presumptuous. But, we're religious scientists, so we encompass everything. And so when we think of ourselves after we've taken our classes and gotten used to the jargon that we use, someone coming and saying, "I am God," we immediately interpret what they're saying is, all of me is made out of God's stuff. My mind is an individualization of the mind of God. And that's why in Genesis, the Old Testament, in the opening of the scripture, it says, "Man," meaning woman, man, "thou art made in the image and likeness of God." But the Jews back then were like us in the early days of our unfoldment. When they made that statement, what could they do with it? I mean, what did it really empower them to do? How could they take that statement and utilize it in a way that they could bring more of God into their life and feel more at one with God, and feel like my lecture today is that I am God made visible? Well, here's the answer. When the scriptures say man or woman, which they do in Genesis, as I spoke earlier, thou art made in the image and likeness of God, we need to reinterpret that by putting it in a context that makes common sense. That's why Ernest Holmes, that's what he called his approach to spiritual living and spiritual unfoldment, that it simply makes common sense. But then he added to that and he said, but common sense isn't very common anymore. So that's why people like Lloyd Tupper are coming along, and he's going to make common sense understandable, not blasphemous, but uplifting and connecting us to the original writers of the Old Testament when they said that we are made in the image and likeness of God. But if we explain that, the real common sense is this definition: man or woman, just as you are right now, sitting or wherever you are in the world, and you're looking at me on Facebook or directly on our Zoom or wherever you may be, here's the definition that Raymond Charles Barker taught me. Lloyd, you are an individualization of the one mind of God. The mind you are using is not exclusively yours. It is the one infinite mind that you individualize. And therefore, you can image forth with that mind what you believe and what you have learned and what you have accepted is the likeness of God. Now, that's what that young girl who came up to Bitzer, Papke, and I back in 1968 in August was trying to say. I am God. But like so many of us, in our excitement, we make statements like that, and to an average person or to another religious scientist or a new thought student, like in Unity or something, they wouldn't grasp what you were saying as meaning what you're trying to say is I am of God, like the drop of the ocean. I am not the entirety of the ocean, but all the elements of my drop of the ocean is everything that exists within the ocean. Now, see, that's much more palatable. That's much more acceptable. And more importantly, it isn't what the world accepts, it's what you accept. What I can accept when I'm doing the work that I do, primarily with practitioners and ministers and like-minded people, because non-like-minded people can't put up with me. It's too much good to accept that I put forth. And they just say, I just can't deal with that. That man is trying to tell me that I'm manifesting the likeness of God. Oh, God forbid that I should manifest the likeness of God. Or as my mother would say, saying things like that, you're going to go directly to hell. But then there's somebody else that said, well, judging from where I see most people living, they wouldn't have too far to go. Somebody said that to me. Can you imagine? But I want you to imagine that when you use the mind of God that is bestowed in you, there's only one mind, and people will say, well, how do I remember that? Remember the first step of spiritual mind treatment. There is one life. That life is God. And that life is my life, your life, now. There is only one mind common to all men. And that mind is my mind. I am using it to communicate with you. And you are using it to understand and receive the intelligence that I'm using by unifying with me the truth that I am giving you. And while you're hearing it and feeling it, do you know that you're being set free in it? And that's what hearing the truth does. It literally sets us free to be all that God envisions us to be as its likeness on the unfoldment of the immortality path to the infinitude of our life in our complete self-realization, as Buddha would say, of the oneness in the all-originating spirit. Now, if anybody tells you less than that, run, because that is the truth. And Barker took 20 years to pound that into me. I used to write like a Catholic, like a romantic Catholic, you know, all the flowers or flowery words, and people that were around back in the 80s and 90s remember when I used to write out the topic of my lecture back in the Masonic auditorium, and I'd have a whole bulletin with a written definition of what I was intending to speak, and then what I intended to speak was written, and the references were written, and the supporting information was written so they could take it home, so that they could hear the truth, then they could read the truth, and then they could experience the truth. That's why we come to church. And isn't it wonderful? We're going to all be back together again on the 11th of July. I have seen pictures of this Masonic temple, and we started our church. We actually had to take a byway. We were supposed to start at the DeYoung Museum trustee auditorium in Golden Gate Park on Easter Sunday in April of 1983. 2 weeks before, the Board of Supervisors passed a law that there could be no more vehicle traffic in Golden Gate Park on Sundays. And we had 2 weeks to find out how we were going to move after sending the announcements out to literally a couple thousand people that we would appear there, and Spirit put us into the theater on the square, downtown Union Square, and we were there for about a month. We were playing a part in a play that was going on then, but we took all the props and we played among them, and I gave the lectures. It was a wonderful start off, and it had a full bar in the mezzanine. And I have been told that many people went up there and got a glass of champagne during the service and came back downstairs, and it was a great, great lecture. Anyhow, we started off with fun, and we are still fun-loving because we know we're made of the Spirit. We express the nature of the Spirit, and we believe that all of the Spirit is present at every moment, in time, in space, and that we can incorporate that Spirit on demand by yielding our personality, by willing to say, I of myself can do nothing. But the Father, Mother within me, and I'm paraphrasing the word mother, that the great Son of God, as we are all sons and daughters of God, Jesus himself said, I am the Son of Man. But he said he of himself could do nothing, but that which is the Father, that which is the principle, the Spirit in us, It can do all manner of things. And then he followed it up by saying, these works that I do, now listen to this, greater works than these ye shall do in my name. And the name wasn't Jesus he was referring to. It was the Christ in you and the Christ in me that Paul said is our hope and glory. So I need to finish this talk, this sharing, this benediction of truth that I'm sharing with you now, to tell you all, I bow before the God presence that you represent. I bow before the essence of God in me and God's mind in me that I'm using to remember to what it is I am saying and what it means. And I pray that you have heard this truth and that it sets you free as I was set free 54 years ago, and that you utilize this truth to do the greater works that Jesus said we can do. It is not of our human self that we can do things. It is of that Christ self. Like that young girl said, I am God. You can say, I know who I am. I am of the original spirit that we call God. And I speak its word because I identify it as being the essence of my beingness. And that essence rises me up each day to a new infinite potential so that I can do the greater works in many, many, many more ways. This is my life. This is why I incarnated in this human form. And when I put this form down and I move forward, it will just be more of this same God life in whatever form I may look like at that time. What difference does it make? I'm still the spirit, individualized as God. And so are you. Let us give thanks and let it be so. And so it is. Amen.
Well, thank you for that, Lloyd. I think everyone will agree that there were some very rich passages in there. And there are going to be in the announcements some ways that you can immerse yourself a little more into this philosophy. So first, I would like to take this time for us to give our thanks and practice one of our most powerful spiritual practices we have, which is giving. So join me now in a blessing for offerings that we have already received this week and those being made online now. In fact, there are many ways for you to give, and they're all listed on our website. You may also give via text. Here's how to do that. You enter into your phone 844-278-3594. Then enter the dollar amount of your donation in the body of the text, just a number, no dollar sign, no decimal point, just the number. Then press send and you will get a responding text that directs you on how to complete your donation. Let me repeat that number again, 844-278-3594. So join me now in the offering blessing by repeating after me. This gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to bless and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world living in love, one heart and one thought at a time. And so it is. And so I made an announcement at the top of our service today because it is just such a great big announcement. And I want to repeat it again in case some of you came in maybe a little bit late. But we have really good news from Reverend Mary and our whole leadership council in a change in venue. Because the Corte Madera Community Center, where we had been meeting and had been closed during COVID, said that they're not going to reopen before December. And we are just too excited to get back together live and hugging and sharing and communing with each other. So we have signed a 6-month lease with an option to renew that lease at the newly remodeled Ross Valley Masonic Center in Larkspur. Our services will begin live and in person on July 11th at 10 a.m. Now, we're still going to live stream on Zoom to Facebook for those of you that are in parts far away, but there's going to be a lot more details coming soon. I also want to mention that we have planned a live picnic to get back together and also to give a really warm and loving send-off to some beloved members, Mary Cosgrove and Jay Gustafson. That is also on July 11th, and that will be at the Corte Madera Rec Center. So we will go to service at the Ross Valley Masonic Center in Larkspur, and then we will all just scoot right over to the Corte Madera Rec Center at 11:30 for that party. If you want to help, email Lori Greer at LoriMorningGlory@gmail.com. So I hope you'll join us for that, our first live and in person, and sending off Mary and Jay to their East Coast new home. We have a new member class coming up, 3 Sundays, July 11th, 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. That's just the specific time for that class. And then on July 18th and July 25th, the new member class will be 1 to 3 p.m. You can email administrator@ggcsl.org to let us know that you want to attend, so you can get handouts and the Zoom link via email. The class is absolutely free. There's no obligation. Just note that there's a different time for July 11th because of all that we're doing on July 11th. Reverend Mary will be teaching the foundations of science of mind. This is the first class we all take to understand the philosophy and understand some of the deep words that Reverend Lloyd shared with us. So if that really stimulated your thought and you're new to this philosophy, or you've been in it for a while and just want to retake these classes to refresh, people do that all the time. The Foundations of Science of Mind will be taught by Reverend Mary this fall on Tuesday evenings, starting September 21st and going until November 23rd from 6 to 9 p.m. Pacific time. Our very own newest practitioners, Suzanne Dubois and Rachel DiPaolo, will be assisting. And Foundations is a required course. It's for other courses that you may take along the way. I also want to announce that the Centers for Spiritual Living's summer retreat called SOAR, S-O-A-R, it used to be called Asilomar. Lloyd mentioned Asilomar. That's going to be happening online Friday and Saturday, August 13 and 14. There's an early bird registration now through July 16th for only $99. And to sign up for that, you want to go to spiritualretreatcsl.org to register and get all the information for the SOAR retreat. I also want to invite you to join us right after this, about 5 minutes afterwards. We have what's called Coffee Conversation and Connection. And that is going to be hosted by our very own Lori Greer. You can go to the Zoom link on the ggcsl.org website, or you can use our Facebook page to get into the coffee and conversation. Lastly, I want to mention that the Wednesday live that we normally have on Wednesdays at noon for this June 30th is canceled because Mary is out of town. But the Wednesday evening meditation this Wednesday at 7:15 with Mary is on. I think that that's the end of our announcements. And now we're going to have another beautiful song by Karen.
Thank you, Francine. Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you, Lori. What a great day. Thank you, William, for getting this all together for us. So let's end with this. God is where I am. God is where I am. Wherever I go, whatever I do, God is where I am. God is where I am. God is where I am. Whatever I do, wherever I go, God is where I am. Do that again. God is where I am. Sing that again. God is where I am, wherever I go, wherever I go, whatever I do, God is where I am. How about joy? Let's do joy. Joy is who I am. It is. Joy is who I am. Wherever I, whatever I do, whatever I go, whatever I do, joy. Joy is where I am. How about love? Let's do some love. Love is who I am. Love is who I am. Wherever I go, wherever I go, whatever I do, love is who I am. Let's go back to God. God is where I am. God is where I am. Wherever I go, wherever I go, whatever I do, God is where I am. Let's bring it into a prayer last time. God is where I am. God is where I am. Wherever I go, wherever I go, whatever I do, God is where I am. Yay!
Oh, thank you, Karen. And I want to thank our Reverend Lloyd. I want to thank Lori for the prayer. I want to thank William. We don't see William on screen, but there is William behind the scenes that makes all of this happen seamlessly. And thank you, William. And I want to invite everyone to join us right afterwards for coffee and conversation. And I want to just extend the invitation to anyone that is watching who may need any support of any kind. We are here for you. We are your spiritual community and want you to feel so much at home with us and welcomed by us and included and loved by us. If there's any support that you need, please reach out to any one of us or on our website, and we are there. But join us for coffee, because that's where God is where I am, as coffee. Thank you, everybody. Have a blessed Sunday.